Coming up on today's Philadelphia Eagles now, we're going to take a look at the Eagles playoff picture, and we're going to include all of this in the segment. Eagles' chances of making the NFL playoffs, how the Birds can secure and lock down the number one seed for the second consecutive year so that home field advantage goes through Lincoln Financial Field, and we're also going to break down the current NFC playoff standings. We first begin with the look at the NFC playoff picture. Philadelphia going into Monday Night Football against the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl 57 rematch. Currently hold the number one seed in this conference with a league best 8-1 record. During the bye week, we were hoping that the Detroit Lions were going to lose because then the Eagles were going to be able to separate themselves a little bit in the NFC playoff standings, but the Lions, a last-second field goal win on the road against the Chargers. So Detroit still 7-2. Dan Campbell doing a great job there in the Motor City. San Francisco ending their three-game losing skid. They're in that 3 spot at 6-3. And then the rest of this playoff picture is very interesting. You have the New Orleans Saints at 5-5 in the 4 seed because they lead what is the worst division in football in the NFC South. After that, Seattle Seahawks, Dallas Cowboys, and the Minnesota Vikings, who have won 5 games in a row, have not lost since losing to the Philadelphia Eagles in primetime earlier this year. And during the bye week, not a lot changed for the Eagles' playoff outlook. The chances of making the playoffs stood at 99%, so it would be an epic choke job for Philadelphia to not make the big dance. Chances of winning the NFC East did not change, stayed at 88%. A percentage point of a change in clinching the number one seed. The Eagles still have a 66% chance to have home field advantage. It went down to 65% because of all of this that happened. The Eagles did not get any help during the bye week. They didn't have the teams that they're competing with and against drop down in the standings. You had the Dallas Cowboys shellac the New York Giants, who are a bottom 2 team in football. The Lions outlasted the Chargers. The Niners took down the Jaguars and ended their 5-game winning streak. And then the Seattle Seahawks edged the Commanders. And going into this week, all of these teams right here, massive favorites in this week's action. Cowboys, 11-point favorites against the Carolina Panthers. The Lions, -10 against the Bears. The 49ers are giving 11 points to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then the Seattle Seahawks, the closest line here, 1-point favorites on the road against the Rams, a Rams team that they lost to in week 1 in a surprise upset to kick off the 2023 campaign. I just would be hard-pressed to see Seattle getting swept by the Rams this year. Now, if you want home field advantage at the Linc once again, it's a beautiful sight. Midnight and Kelly Green everywhere. Tailgates at the K-Lot and surrounding parking lots all throughout the day. People taking down some beers, having a ball, and then the atmosphere inside the Linc is jumping. I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. We know that this Eagles' upcoming schedule is very, very difficult. Playing the Chiefs Monday Night Football in that Super Bowl rematch. It's going to be a tall test. Then you come back home to take on a desperate Buffalo Bills team that's been reeling and just fired their offensive coordinator in Ken Dorsey. You kick off December with an NFC Championship game rematch against the San Francisco 49ers. You go on the road for matchup number 2 against the Dallas Cowboys. You could be playing for the division here, maybe even the number 1 seed, depending on how things shake out. That'll be a Sunday Night Football game. And then Eagles at Seahawks on the road, Pacific Northwest, in what has always been a very difficult place to play for all teams, including Philadelphia and the Seahawks, a pretty good ball club. Now, the good news is, after this 5-game gauntlet, you do round out with Giants, Cardinals, Giants to kind of beef up that record once again. But can you survive this 5-game stretch? Eagles are certainly talented enough to do so. You take a look at the playoff picture, more in-depth numbers here. If the Eagles beat the Chiefs, and they win just 2 of their next 4 games, that would leave the Eagles with somewhere between a 60% chance and an 89% chance of clinching the number 1 seed, depending on the other games and how they are decided, especially with the other games that we were talking about with the teams in the thick of the race in this NFC playoff picture. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let's do it for Jason Kelsey. We're closing in on 62,000 subscribers. We're only 290 people away. Can we get there before Monday night? And when we do, we'll celebrate for Kelsey during our watch party. Your questions on the back end of the show, but first, Eagles Now is sponsored by Game Time. This is the only app that I use if I'm looking for tickets to sporting events, theater events, comedy shows, or concerts. Game Time has it all. And if you use our code EaglesChat, you get $20 off your purchase. You get the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed. What's cool about this app is that they monitor the market and the prices drop as the event gets closer. I also love the user experience and the user interface here. I've been to Lincoln Financial Field a couple of times, and I want to see where I'm sitting, but also what I'm paying. You're able to get that right here. Tickets still available for Bills, Eagles. That's going to be fun. Eagles rocking the Kelly Greens once again. You can look at the map view in case you want to determine which yard line you want to sit on or what section. Code EaglesChat. Redeem that code right now. Eagles, games, concerts, more. Use the Game Time app. That link is available for you down in the comment section and in the description of this video. Our boy Paul with the newly minted profile picture, one of our Super Chat MVPs this year. What up, Paul? Do you think we should have signed tight end Brady Russell since he was decent in the preseason? Not a bad name there. Surprised Philadelphia didn't actually do that. I think that they're pretty confident moving ahead with the tight ends on this current roster. Jack Stoll's been with this team for a little while. Grant Calcaterra in year 2. Then you have the athletic freak in a guy like Albert Okwuegbunam. And then you go from Brady Russell to a guy like Rob Gronkowski. Flipping the Bird 85 asking this question, should the Eagles bring in Gronk? I think that Gronk is done. I think he's content with his life right now, not playing football, being involved in the media. It's certainly a lot easier to live your life when you've lost a little bit of weight and you're not getting beat up on the football field, and all you can do, put on a headset like this, hop on a microphone, and talk some ball. He's accomplished everything that he's needed to accomplish. The thing with Gronk, he's lost so much weight. He'd have to add that weight. I also saw that he's training to be a basketball player overseas potentially, and then wants to play flag football in the Olympics in a couple of years. I think that is where he has his eyes set on. China, contrary to popular opinion, the Birds are going to crush this half of the schedule. Sirianni already told us, stop doubting the Eagles. China, I absolutely love your confidence as an Eagles fan, and I've always loved the confidence of Nick Sirianni, and I'm confident in this football team because they no doubt are talented enough. Ernesto, who should step up on offense and defense against the Chiefs on Sunday? Okay, defensively, definitely James Bradbury. The insertion of Bradley Roby, going to be huge for this team. Darius Slay's going to have to play a little bit better. The back-end's job can be made a little bit easier if the pass rush is able to get home. So that'll be a critical key to this game as well. So that's defense. On offense, I want to see the return of this running game. And does the return of Cam Jurgens help this Eagles ground attack? Because the Chiefs are susceptible to giving up chunks on the ground. Detarius Rhodes, do you think the run game will pick up against the Chiefs? I hope so. They're going to need to because, Chip, we could take a look at the numbers, how the Eagles fared weeks 1 through 5 and how they've fared since then. And I do think that this coincides with that Cam Jurgens injury because he played the first 4 weeks of the season, and this Eagles ground game was pretty good. This is when DeAndre Swift popped off a couple of times. 140 attempts, 661 yards, 4.7 yards per attempt, and 5 touchdowns weeks 1 through 4. Jurgens goes out with that foot injury, and down goes the Eagles' ground game. Down to 3.5 yards per attempt, only 506 yards on 150 attempts. And the bonus of being able to run the ball against Kansas City is keeping the Chiefs' offense and Patrick Mahomes on that sideline, watching the game on the Jumbotron. And hopefully, they're going to be watching a lot of that and just seeing a lot of Taylor Swift in that box. Cool Reigns, do you think with Buffalo and the Niners not playing that good, it's an easier path than we thought? I actually think the opposite. I think Buffalo is a really desperate team, and they're going to be playing for their playoff lives, now changing offensive coordinators, and with Josh Allen being so reckless with the football, this Eagles atmosphere at the Linc could bother him a little bit because he's shown to get a little bit flustered. I think that game, you can look at it either of those ways. But Buffalo's going to be a desperate football team. So you're not going to cakewalk over Buffalo. And then San Francisco, look, they went on that 3-game losing streak. How they played against a very good Jaguars team is very impressive. I mean, they beat the brakes off Jacksonville that entered that game coming out of the bye, having won 5 straight. Score was 34-3. 5 sacks, 4 turnovers. They beat them up. And those two teams weren't even on the same field. So Niners, given how they felt, having that sour taste in their mouths after the NFC Championship game, I think they're going to come in fired up. But I do like Philadelphia win that game. Nick Stone, what do you think A.J. Brown's stat line will be against the Chiefs? They do have a pretty good secondary, and their defensive line is really good. In fact, it's underrated. Outside of Chris Jones and George Karlaftis, a lot of people don't understand or know a lot of the players on that defensive line, but that grouping is very good. They're also good on the second level at that linebacking core, and then their corners and safeties have been playing really good ball. So at some point, a team's really going to try to hone in on A.J. Brown. Is he good enough to just make that a non-talking point where it doesn't even matter? Yeah, he is, because I think right now he's the best and most complete wide receiver in the game. So let's say the Eagles target him 7 times, 80 yards, and a touchdown. Be sure to subscribe to be included in our mailbags, but also to watch all of our content and to join us for our Monday Night Football watch party against the Kansas City Chiefs.